Welcome to Doom Scroll Patrol, the show where we doom scroll so you don't have to. Today, we are going to be talking about Kanye's fun Nazism. We're going to be talking about monetizing racism. We're going to guess who made $1 trillion last year. And then we're going to go on to end times fascism and then move on to everyone's favorite topic, the parade of atrocities in Gaza. Oh my God. I'm Aaron Heggie McKay.
I'm Harold Moss.
I'm Hannah Snape.
And I'm Sam Bowl of Good Puddin' Perez.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
I thought I was the bowl of good pudding.
Stick around. You're not going to want to miss this.
Now it's showtime.
Yeah, so recently, as of, what was it, like May, what's today? The
12th.
May 12th.
So May 10th, I believe, Kanye West, musical genius, 24-time Grammy winner, released his new song, Heil Hitler, on multiple streaming platforms. Yeah. And it's great because the single's art looks like a swastika made by a very stupid child.
The entire creative project.
Yeah. So I did listen because, again, I'm like, well, okay, what's this? I'm not a big Kanye West fan anyways, but when this kind of stuff comes out, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I listened to it. Bad, not good, not a good song at all. Like, I don't know who this guy is who made this song, but it's trash. But the reason I'm bringing it up is just because I feel like this is I feel like this is the song of 2025.
Song of the summer.
Off in a really awful way. Because not only that, so the song's getting banned on every social media platform. Surprise, surprise, except for Twitter. It's just blowing up all over Twitter. But what is blowing up is just
on Twitter.
Yeah, it's just all these MAGA chuds are singing along, doing Nazi salutes, I don't know. It's just I'm just what the fuck come on, people? I don't know. It's so, like I said, I think it is very much this is the song of America right now. I think this is very accurate to what's going on and this weird feeling that's happening. This as white supremacy and white nationalism is very heavily on the rise in America. This is this is it. This is the song for it. And as you can see, Hannah, who is just disgusted, may have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, if you're just listening to this at home, Hannah's making the face of just somebody just fucking farted in her face at at a dance party, and you don't know what to do with yourself.
These lyrics. Let me just read this. Yes, I am a cuck. I like when people fuck on my bitch.
Oh my.
I mean, obviously.
What does that rhyme with? All right, now I gotta find these stupid lyrics.
I mean, clearly he's an awful person and extremely mentally ill, right? But the permission gate here, what we're seeing, if people, we've talked about it before, but the Overton window, which is the idea that you shift what is acceptable discourse, we're going from authoritarianism to just fascism to now let's make Nazism acceptable, right?
Yeah.
And that is why, and they love that it's a black guy doing it, right? Because they can, that gives them, in their minds,
sort of license.
Some moral license to throw up the old Seig Heil.
Yeah.
His lyrics don't really have anything to do with the message, though, is the thing.
Except for it's just the refrain, right? The lyrics don't, right?
Except for the repeated Hail Hitler. That's
except for that.
Nothing,
except for that
nothing,
little.
No, there's no other
couplet.
Context.
It's not even a couplet. It's a one-lit.
This is the thing that I struggle. I don't know what the theory is here. Is he doing this because he just likes Hitler's vibe and he just loves the idea of having a whole bunch of people being unquestionably devoted and loyal to a guy like Hitler, and he likes that what that represents, and he just sort of he's into the aesthetic of Hitler? Or does he actually believe in white supremacy as a black man And this is just sort of like he sort of bought into the idea that if you just sort of get into that ahead of it, you will be spared from the genocide. I don't know, or if this is just some sort of like weird, like he has some terrible mental illness.
Well, he does have some terrible mental illness.
He does have some terrible mental illness.
That's totally untreated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally untreated, and this is just the hurricane inside his brain that is just spewing this shit out, and it makes I don't know what to make of this.
Because I know he's been like this way for a while. Because I remember watching, what was he on? He was on some news type of show for like young people, but he was he was like
CNN.
It was CNN. He was basically on there, and at the time he was on this kick of how almost like I can't remember, right? I'm sure maybe one of you remember, but like he was basically saying slavery isn't real, and like black people basically were like very willing participants in the act of slavery in America. Like and that was like his kick for a while, was like, it wasn't that bad, guys. Like, look at us now. We're doing so good. And I remember in that video, because one of the people in the room, like, I mean, he wasn't mic'd up. He was in the back. You just hear him yelling. He's like, basically like, you're an idiot. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're bringing it. What are you doing to our people? Like, because it was, like I said, it was this younger black guy. And he was just like yelling at Kanye West, being like, you're like a fucking moron, man. Like, what are you doing? So I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe it is like, because he's been right leaning for a while, like at least 5 to 6 years, maybe longer. I don't know. So I don't know, like if this, like you said.
I mean, honestly, I think that what his intentions are, who gives a fuck? He's significant. He's a piece of shit who also deals with significant untreated mental illnesses, right? That those are not the same thing. They're two concurrent things. He's a piece of shit who's also, what's significant is how many white people are leaping on this to quote unquote own the libs, ha ha ha, and normalize Nazism.
Yeah.
Right. That is what's, whatever is going on in his fevered brain is kind of irrelevant. Right. If he wasn't, it's the white people jumping on it. And that's, the other thing we had last week was the woman who raised $500,000 for calling a young autistic child the N-word because he grabbed something out of her purse. He was 5. And then for the horrors of having been exposed for using the N-word on a 5-year-old child, she got $500,000 raised by Nazis. Right. And it was all Nazis. All the usernames were Nazi. I mean, it was white supremacists and Nazis. So they see this moment, not surprisingly, we've got a guy who most credibly, the only book he ever read, Trump, page cover to cover, was Mein Kampf. Right. That's the one that was on his bedside stand. I doubt he made it through it, because if he did, he'd have understood that one of Hitler's key strategies was infrastructure investment in order to buy off the population and not undermine the economy. So fortunately, his lack of ability to read, but they feel like this is the moment. This is the moment.
In other places, there are even faster, more violent motions.
So related on there is that I said the N-word to Newsmax broadcaster pipeline thing where it's like, or whatever it is, or you're some sort of influencer, and there is a dangerous normalization that happens with this, but the right does this thing, and they call it strategic controversy, and this seems to be what Kanye West is trying to do, where it's just like, you say something outlandish, you make a lot of people pay attention to you, and then you can kind of monetize this or leverage that into some sort of like, it's the thing that like that Hawk Tuah girl did, except racist. It's just eventually it's going to be some sort of crypto coin, and instead of it collapsing in some sort of scam, it's going to collapse civilization. So,
well,
I
it
guess
feels
EA
like
is
a
doing that.
resurgence. Like in 2021 was the first like big unveiling of Kanye's opinion on Hitler. He said something like, I think Hitler was kind of a cool guy or something. Like it wasn't full on this.
Yeah, put a trial balloon.
But it was a little taste, and the internet went crazy. The alt-rights were like, stop crucifying him, he has a right to say these things, and everyone else was like, why the hell are you saying these things? So I think that huge insurgence of attention maybe just did something to his brain, and now he's just constantly trying to get that back. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was just like, he's just like, I kind of like Hitler's vibe or whatever. And then, like, the people that were praising him, he's just going to automatically gravitate towards because he's an egomaniac. Right. And that just became the self-fulfilling circle of just like, oh, these people who don't like me, fuck them.
He has brain damage.
But this normalization is a real issue. And, you know, one of the channels to this normalization is Proud Boys dressing up as ICE agents and kidnapping people off the street. Because ICE agents are people who wear masks and refuse to show any identity. Like, you know, so there is like many opportunities for people. And, you know, I think that it's an important task to make being an open Nazi a fucking dangerous thing to do. Like, live in fear. And we're going to have to do that. I mean, and we always
They have
know-
a lot of guns, though. Like, the people who cosplay as ICE, or the people who actually are, you know, members of ICE, when you do have a mask on and you have a big fucking gun, it's a little hard for regular people to make that person feel like they're in danger.
Well, no. But people have. You just refuse them. You ask them. You expose them. You get the whole neighborhood fucking out. People have been able to turn them away. Whether they're official ICE agents or just vigilantes. But, of course, the biggest amount of guns that the Nazis always have protecting them is the police, which even just this past weekend, 1,000 Nazis marched through the streets of Paris, and who was there protecting them? The police protecting them and beating up anti-fascists, which, having been to my share of anti-fascist and anti-Nazi and anti-Klan rallies in my lifetime, every single time, phalanxes of police protect the Nazis and the Klan members and every single time. Every single time. If the Nazis show up, there will be police 3 deep. And then, you know, there's kind of that fuzzy border area between, because there's often, you know, shared membership.
They call it the fascist ombre. It just sort of like fades from like actual police to like fascists. It just sort of nicely fades.
This reminds me of the scene from The Blues Brothers, where
there's that car going through a mall.
yeah, kind of, no. When all the Nazis are on the bridge.
Bridge.
They're stopping everyone from, like, getting at them. And then the Blues Brothers just drive right through, and they have to jump into the water.
Yep.
We need more
the
of
Blues
that.
Brothers knew how to treat a Nazi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only good part about that movie. And an otherwise really boring and shitty movie. I'm gonna be honest. Blues Brothers super fucking overrated.
Yeah, don't listen to Aaron.
Aaron's a
In fact-
piece of shit.
Yeah, disregard all.
You're
of
a
Aaron's
bad
opinions.
human being. I love you, brother, but
I just can't. I can't with that. I was like, where are the jokes? There are no jokes in this movie.
It's the only musical I like. It's the only musical I'll watch.
Buddy, you're gonna sit there and tell me that Cats is like not head and shoulders above Blues
have you ever
Brothers?
had a wish sandwich? That's where you got 2 pieces of bread and you wish you had some meat. Come on, man. He don't get it. He don't get it, Sam. He don't get it.
It's just fucking like.
Of the funniest people of the 20th century.
No,
Playing the
John
blues.
Belushi is the most overrated comedian of all time. He just sits there and he's a fucking asshole, and boomers were like, ha ha ha, hilarious. He's angry at women, ha ha. And I'm like, what a piece of shit. Like John Belushi, just like is he just because he died being cool, and everyone's like, yeah, what a comedy legend. He is the worst cast member, but in terms of just like of SNL pedigree, by like he's again most overrated. Like he is the least funny and most respected, differential out of any single person that has ever come out of SNL.
Wow.
That's kind of valid though, because in the second Blues Brothers, he didn't even really do anything. I haven't seen it. I've just seen scenes, and it was just sad and
Yeah,
disappointing.
the second Blues Brothers is terrible, awful.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of that movie.
That's
No, this might be a tangent, right?
So speaking of the villains, guess what happened last year? Guess what happened to 19 families in America? 19 families in America. What do you think? Now, this year, we know if we're going to ask that question, it's they probably got sent to a death camp. And they're U.S. citizen 2-year-olds with cancer. No one knows where they put them, right? That's this year. But last year, what happened to 19 families in America?
oh no.
They saw a $1 trillion increase in their wealth. 19 families in America saw, that's the top, and I'm going to have to really look at this closely, 0.00001% of the U.S. So that's a percent. So add 2 more zeros there. So if I'm going to do it out of 100, it's 0.0000001 out of 100 people in America saw their wealth go up by $1 trillion.
Did you just imply that those 19 families are going to be sent to a death camp next year?
No, it's order to make another trillion this year that they are supported the guy who's sending them. The question was, if I asked what happened to 19 families this year, it would be 19 families got sent to a death camp and their cancer kid got lost.
Well,
but
hold
last
on.
year,
Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater in this one. Because
but
I think you got something cooking here that I think maybe people are into. Maybe let's spitball this a little bit. So this is I'm looking at the graph that you sent. This is from the Wall Street Journal of all people. They're saying the rise of the ultra wealthy. So there's 19 richest households, and they all increased their wealth by $1 trillion. So this is your Elon Musk's, your
Bezos, Zuckerberg's, yeah,
your Andreessens.
And this is just, the Gilded Age of the 20s is very directly led to the Great Depression, and global war and upheaval. We are making previous Gilded Ages embarrassed. Like the previous Gilded Age is like, oh, that's a bit much, isn't it? I mean, shouldn't you sprinkle a little bit more around? And yet, what do these people do? They go in and try and loot and destroy even the basic social safety net. That's their response to getting $1 trillion richer, is how can we scoop out more and how can we make poor people poorer?
There is a different psychological operating system working on people now than it was in the 1920s, like the previous Gilded Ages. Because at least then, when you were that fucking rich, there was this social pressure to give back a little bit. There was a philanthropy. There's pressure. There's all the reasons why you have fucking Carnegie's name on everything.
Yeah.
Is because there's oh, you're super rich. You should probably launder your reputation a little bit by giving some of that money back in terms of endowments for universities or whatever. Now it's
buy a bunker.
Buy a $500 million bunker in Hawaii, Mark.
Although
that's the way to do it.
Although, to be fair, in the previous Gilded Ages, the laundering of reputations was also about social control. Like David Rockefeller determining what is modern art. Modern art, as we know it, you go to MoMA, it didn't just happen. They went for abstract and expressionists in order to cut out all the Marxists and the leftists and the politics. So a lot of that money was laundering of reputations. It was also about social control, which, Bill Gates.
But at least we got some fucking art. At least we got some fucking art.
You're like Rockefeller rich or whatever.
Segue.
Speaking of things. Okay. So I didn't mean to totally.
That's fine.
Yeah. This does segue into a nice piece that I found. This is actually just a few weeks old, but I just found it. So this is by... this is End Times Fascism. It's a piece in The Guardian by Naomi Klein and Astra Taylor. So the rise of End Times Fascism is what it's called, and basically explores the coalescence of far right figures. You got your tech bros, you got your the people wanting to go to Mars and build bunkers and shit. You got your religious zealots. All of these people sort of handshaking to kind of bring this doomsday prepper mentality at the state level. It's kind of their argument here, where they're just hoarding resources and like creating a fortress where they're kicking the undesirables out and they're controlling it with violence. So you get your seasteaders, you get your corporate towns, you got libertarian islands like Prospera, and there's this. I just want to have this little. I'm going to share a few quotes here. The startup country contingent is clearly foreseeing a future marked by shocks, scarcity, and collapse. Their high-tech private domains are essentially fortress escape pods designed for the select few to take advantage of every possible luxury and opportunity for human optimization, giving them and their children an edge in an increasingly barbarous future. To put it bluntly, the most powerful people in the world are preparing for the end of the world, and an end they themselves are frenetically accelerating. So what do y'all think of that?
I mean, that's, yeah. Well, I'll go on, so I'll wait a moment.
I mean, that just seems like an observation.
Yep. Certainly is.
Yep.
Certainly an observation.
I mean,
an observation and a half. They do make. They
oh
do
my!
point
Look
out,
over there. It's the end time fascism.
I think they do point out that this is prompted by the recent material developments of accelerated end times fascism. Like there's like the drivers of like the climate crisis, and even the people they sort of point out, even the people who deny it, basically plan as if they do believe it. Like they're lying to the public about whether or not they believe it. Like the pandemics that we obviously just had COVID, and they see it as like an indicator of what military leaders called, quote, the age of consequences 18 years ago, which I didn't realize the like sort of military leaders had a paper called the age of consequences, which is basically
that's a great term for what we are in. That's honestly
that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it
yeah.
is. It is kind of a great term. So 18 years ago, the people at CSIS brought that up, and I love how it's basically
I'm keeping that.
We all
one.
grew up in the fuck around era. Now we're in the finding out era.
Yeah.
The other driver is the rise of AI, and of course increasing tensions between nuclear powers. And we just avoided some of that with India and Pakistan. It's sort of almost coming to blows. So.
Well, they came to blows, but not nuclear.
Sorry, coming
blows.
to the
nuclear blows.
They backed down from being a nuclear exchange.
Talking about Hawk to a girl. No, I'm not going to make a nuclear blowjob joke. Sorry.
Spit on that shit before launching it.
Fundamentally, I mean, I come back to this quote because it's, the socialism or barbarism from Emma Goldman and the rise of fascism. We are on a completely, every corner of the globe is now faced with that. And there was really no way that this horrible colonial, capitalist, life-destroying death cult of a global society was going to just wrap itself up nicely and move on to Star Trek communism or something, right? It was never going to happen. And that's the interesting times we live in. That's the interesting. And I do think, I mean, it's interesting. They even say towards the end of the article, which is, they call out that there are counter visions, including, indigenous worldviews and the political struggles and all the different places of what a better world is. But that future, as they say, would require its own apocalypse, its own world ending and revelation of a different sort. Because in order to make earthly planetary survival possible, some versions of this world need to end. So there is an apocalypse coming, right? We are in the middle of it. The question is it the apocalypse of the dying gasps of a life-ending system of colonialism, or is it the apocalypse of its success at extinguishing life? Those are really the choices. And I said this last week, and this is my new personal mantra from me, which is that we have more solutions than problems. But the biggest problem is that the entrenched interests stand in the way of implementing those solutions. And I think that's the rest of my life, is fucking banging that drum. Because it's not that we don't know what to do. We do know what to do. We know how to solve just about every problem that we're facing. But those 19 households that got $1 trillion of wealth more last year, they're using a good chunk of that. It doesn't even need to be much. Like Elon Musk bought the presidency for a couple $100 million. Right? So they're only using some tiny percentage of the wealth that they gained just last year in order to stand in the way of fixing the problems that we know how to fix. And that's critical because there's no reason to be hopeless. There's just a reason to be fucking pissed off that this basically 19 households in America and around the world, these tiny number of people, are stopping us from fixing all of the fucking problems that we have that we know how to fix.
They do point out that, like, basically what their remedy for this is we need a better counter narrative to start organizing a sort of, I guess, a parallel civilization that takes care of ourselves and the rest of the planet. It's hard to do that when they have all the weaponry, but at the same time, even getting that message out is difficult because, quote, thanks to decades of deepening economic stresses alongside ceaseless and skillful messaging pitting workers against one another, a great many people understandably feel unable to protect themselves from the disintegration that surrounds them, no matter how many months of ready-to-eat meals they buy. But there are emotional compensations on offer. You can cheer the end of affirmative action and DEI, glorify mass deportations, enjoy the denial of a gender-affirming care to trans people, villainize educators and healthcare workers. Basically, we're owning the libs to death is kind of their point on this one. So the end times fascism is a darkly festive fatalism, a final refuge for those who find it easier to celebrate destruction than imagine living without supremacy, which I thought that was beautifully put.
Yeah,
I fucking love Naomi. I mean, I know her work better than Astrid's work, but Naomi Klein's a giant. She's been right for a long time on so many things.
So the article it compares a lot of what's going on with like the religious extremism and things like that and the rapture or whatever. So is the Kool-Aid in this situation going to Mars?
Well,
that's just kind of Elon Musk's escapism. It seems to me like he has this idea of trying to save humanity. He has himself as this hero figure. And
I think God
he wants to be a
is
god
actually
king.
More accurate. He wants to be a god king of Mars. It's also part of his grift.
Yeah.
It's part of his grift, which is, what do you mean my entire industry is a house of cards? Robots, self-driving taxis, Mars. So it's part of his mantra, but I do think he wants to be God King of Mars.
Sick.
There's a
we
book.
should let him go do that.
There's a book called, I think
Solo.
it's Mark O'Connell. I think it's called To Be a Machine, and it's basically kind of just waxing philosophic on how a lot of these tech bros are so disgusted with their own humanity that they really want to be a machine, right? And these are
the
people
singularity.
They want to transcend the human form and become some sort of altered human god where technology will free them from, needing things like empathy and hunger.
Well, there are a significant portion of these guys that are convinced that they will be immortal. That is what they are going for. They literally want to become gods. This is not an exaggeration. It's not a metaphor. They think that they are going to be able to grasp immortality and own the future, that either we are severely depopulated serfs working under them, or we're no longer needed because AI has displaced the need for actual humanity to get things done. This is not a metaphor. They are not being abstract. They genuinely think that they are going to get immortality and transcend all of us and the need for life on Earth.
Yeah, I don't think people really understand that this whole AI boom thing cannot coexist. Like this sort of accelerating AI, especially just the energy and materials demands on it, it cannot coexist with 8 billion people. also on the planet at the same time. We just cannot have both of these things running at the same time. We cannot provide for one, or we have to choose. It's one or the other. We either have an AI system that, accelerates and tries to do everything, or we can have people.
Yep.
As we can have all of these people have all of their needs met. We cannot do both.
And you can't have people unless you've got all the other life around us, because they're not, I mean, to me, that's not just a practical consideration.
Yeah,
we have other life on Earth has its own rights, but also we don't get to have 8 billion people without a thriving ecosystem.
Yeah. There's a physical and biological substrate to all of civilization that we are just Jenga-ing our way out of.
Yep. There's a great name for an organization in Spain, which is
I think they quoted is it in this one?
No, it's a different one on data centers. Tu nube seca mi rio. Your cloud is drying my river. It's such a great name. Your cloud computing is
I was
drying
also
my
reading
river.
about this today, and I guess it was not in this. I was reading it elsewhere. I forgot where I read that.
It's also in The Guardian, so that's probably it was at the same time. But again, and this is why I'm making it my mantra, is that's not, we don't need to. It's so unnecessary. We have more solutions than problems, and it's these fuckers standing in the way. And that's the message we've got to get across. It's not hopeless. It's we're being thwarted. We are not in an inevitable collapse. We are being thwarted from building a future that could take care of everyone, and have been for a couple hundred years, honestly. I mean, the technology existed in the early 20th century to take care of most of humanity, for there to be no more hunger.
Just not to go down like a huge AI rabbit hole, but it does, like, if you are seeing AI unravel and like how it's being brought out, and you're thinking to yourself, like, who is this for? Why is this being forced down my throat? The reason why it feels that way is because it is a technology in search of a solution. It is a solution in search of a problem, rather, where it's just like, well, like, why are you tired of not being able to make instant versions of your face into some sort of anime? Now we have AI to do that.
Well,
like,
but what they really want to do is, and what Musk was trying to do with Doge, is to eliminate the humans from the government and have his AI run it, right? I mean, that's their plan, is to displace the need for pesky workers who do things like want a living wage. Sometimes they form unions and fight.
Pee in toilets.
Pee, exactly.
Ew, who does that?
Pee at all.
You mean,
It's like, hello, I am a robot.
Well, and then we're getting it. Then we can get to the people who have now their primary social relationship is with AI. That's not the future. There was the movie Her, but it's happening, and I've talking to folks who are dealing with this in their life, people who are their primary social relationship now is ChatGPT.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
It's so
That's
crazy.
sad.
Did they just like? What did they do? They just talk to it? Like
They talk. Well, one person
how's
was
your
telling
day?
about a friend who used it as their therapist, and now now ChatGPT is how they make all their life decisions. And anytime there's a question, it's like they ask ChatGPT, who's now kind of So it's.
I guess that makes it. I have a buddy who is kind of starting at like a film production type stuff. And they've become super reliant on like ChatGPT, and it's like everything is like, well, let's like ask ChatGPT.
Yeah,
like,
that's it. Let's
like,
ask. That was what I heard from there.
You can just do it yourself, man.
Well, also that these things hallucinate, right? And they are I mean, not just destroying all life on Earth by emitting CO2 and drying up all the water. They're just like pieces. It's garbage for the most part.
I wonder if people actually understand how AI works, because I think a lot of people have the perception that it is a thinking network that has a conscious awareness of the information that it's giving, but it's literally just a math equation.
It's a large language model. It's just got a lot of data, and
words.
it re-spews it out. Yep, you're exactly right. People don't.
I believe the term is stochastic parrot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good term. I haven't heard that one.
I didn't
an
come
AI
up with
hater
that.
like-
I'm not. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm
ChatGPT came
surprised
up
I
with that.
missed it. Yeah, ChatGPT came up with it.
We should.
There was a
we
little
should do-
study. Yeah, I don't want to go down too much of this rabbit hole, but there was a little study of just like you ask ChatGPT to like what's 1 + 1, and it will give you that it's 2, but like it won't do the math on it. It will just predict from like what other people. So it can't actually do math. Even though it's a computer, it can theoretically just do math. It just sort of it feels out what might be the best answer for it,
And if
it
you
will
argue
tell you
with
that it did it.
it'll argue with, if you argue with it, you can get it to change its mind about
Maybe.
what 1 + 1 is. Yeah. I mean, people have done that sort of thing.
Well, this
I
ties
mean, what they
into,
are,
like-
they are aiming towards, a generalized intelligence. They think they are going to create that consciousness. But of course, the people who think they are, the ones who actually think that actual artificial intelligence is possible, there's a really significant chance that that intelligence would then turn around and end humanity. And that's not just a sci-fi thing. That it's just like one of the likely outcomes if we actually achieved a conscious, self-conscious machine, is that it would outstrip us and we would be in the way. And yet they're still doing it.
There's a whole like, there's a whole like super intelligence problem thing, alignment problem thing that we don't have time to get into. But
So for some more good news, America, we're now making America eugenics again. Since we started with Heil Hitler, all of the wellness, and let's just be clear, when you say wellness, I say Nazi, right? The wellness to fascism connection has always been there. It's just become quite explicit. And now the idiots put in charge of our health are explicitly coming out with eugenics. Eugenics meaning that you need to purify the gene pool.
Is this
that
like
only the healthy
RFK's
survive.
autism
RFK,
list?
Well, it's Oz, Dr. Oz. And so this came from, and I've got a link in the thing if we want to put the clip in. 70% of the money we spend is on chronic illness, and we're not getting our money's worth. So for folks listening right now, this is Dr. Oz. It's your patriotic duty to be as healthy as you can. That could have come right out of Nazi Germany.
Well, it's a good thing I just went to the gym before this podcast because I'm a true patriot.
And it is tied in that RFK is now making, just on his own, making an autism registry using Medicaid and Medicare information that Elon Musk has stripped out of it. So they're going to start identifying the people who are autistic. And it's our patriotic duty to be healthy. I mean, these people are serious. They are trying to cut Medicare and healthcare. They just want disabled folks and different folks just to die off. I mean, that's the agenda.
Well, at least they'll be happy with me because I don't ever plan on having children. So, I guess I'm just.
Wait a second. You're a woman with no children? God damn it. We better force you.
Yeah, well,
No,
I mean,
'cause I
that's
have-
also tied in with the natalism movement that they are also pushing, but it's more white babies. So, yeah. Sorry, go ahead,
there was
Hannah.
it occurred to me.
Oh, yeah, I forgot it's a white baby.
There's a couple of things that I wanted to pick up on that. Can I just quickly do? So first on the eugenics part of like the white babies thing, it occurred to me that the population obsession that we had in the early 70s of like the population bomb or whatever, that was all like we're being outbred by brown people. There's a lot of like white supremacy in there. Like if you read the population bomb, the first opening chapters is just like, I'm in India and there's too many fucking people and they're gross. That's like literally the first like thing. It's like just openly racist in that way. And, there's a whole Malthus thing that goes into that. Now it's like, well, we can't say that anymore. And also not having there's a whole like demographics thing where like we have to either, if we want to continue to grow the economy exponentially, we have to have more people to work and support the elderly because we have too many boomers. There's just too many of them. And we don't want to bring in people for immigration. So what do? We take away white women's ability to have an abortion or whatever, and then we have this whole like there's not enough white babies thing. Like they're now almost openly saying there's not enough white babies. So either way, on either side of the like there's too many people, there's not too many people. It's all about the number of white people.
Yeah. It's the number of white people. And this is also why we're seeing all the efforts to normalize white people calling black people the N-word and normalize Seig Heiling is that they're frustrated that they can't say it. So really the message is, we can't say it right now. So let's get the policies going. But let's also normalize open racism and genocide. I would say also, and I had wanted to come back to this anyways, which is, I think one of the primary functions of Gaza, besides Israel's expansion and genocide, is that it is the template. You dehumanize people. Palestinians aren't people in the view of, and this is not a right or a left thing. Sorry, that we just know that even more came out that Israel was shocked that they got no pushback on the genocide from Biden, that they got none at all. They expected to get a pushback like Reagan and Dunn and others. And now there's 2 million people starving to death, and there is famine, and it is entirely created. And that's the end game of dehumanizing non-white people, is to get the license to eliminate inconvenient sections of the global population. And that's what's going on. And the silence and the complicity and the arming of that should chill everyone, even if you haven't been directly engaged in that. Because what they're doing to Gaza is what they want to do with every inconvenient population in the world. And that's not just the far right. That's not just the Nazis. Because look at all the governments who continue to support Israel's genocide and the very intentional, conscious, worked out, planned famine that is happening right now. I mean, last week it was just so bizarre on my social media feed, going between emaciated babies who are just sometimes hundreds of yards from food being stopped from getting to them, right? We're not talking about some horrible calamitous drought that left people wanting. We're talking about people, sometimes babies, hundreds of yards from trucks of food that Israel is stopping them from getting in. And then the Met Gala and what costumes people have been putting on. That was like what my feed was. But this is their plan. This is their blueprint, is to be able to get away with it. It's the extreme one. You don't pull off a genocide every week just because you can. But this is they are normalizing this part of their toolkit. And it's being normalized by Labour in Britain, by the Democrats here. It's not just the fascists who are normalizing it. It's being normalized across the board.
Everyone is an asshole.
Yeah.
She had a
Bisan
final
Alda.
goodbye. Yes.
Bisan Alda. She's a journalist in Gaza.
Yeah, and she's been documenting almost every day for the past more than a year. I think since October 7th, or before that. But in her final goodbye, she was saying that this famine, the lack of food, is Israel's strongest weapon right now. Yeah. Because famine means people are already dying of starvation.
Yeah.
So it is.
There's 500,000 people in the process of dying as we speak.
Yes.
And there's another 1.5 million who are in danger of it. But there's 500,000 people who are being starved to death currently in the process of dying because they won't let the trucks go across the border.
Yeah. So that, and they're also still bombing safe zones.
Yep.
And,
bombing babies in tents.
Yeah, and actually bombing tents now too. So it's really cool.
Yeah. That's when we talk about end times fascism, that's what we're dealing with across the board. And frankly speaking, the liberals get on board with it as well. The liberals in power, the wealthy liberals get on board with it as well when the stakes are there. You can see it. You could see it. I don't know if people ever saw when there was protesters around Gaza before the Democratic National Convention, literally people plugging their ears up not to hear the chants to go in. That's where someone stands on Gaza tells you who they are fundamentally. If they are willing to excuse that level of unnecessary barbarism, that tells you who they are. That's why I voted for Harris. I wish Harris had won, but I can never look askance at someone who was so horrified by what was going on at Gaza that they couldn't. I will not blame that person for saying I can't vote for someone who's in favor of this. I will never condemn the people who could not stomach voting for a backer of that genocide. Again, I voted for Harris. I wish Trump had lost. I think the world would be safer without him. But I'm not going to blame the people who could not stomach the bombings of hospitals at one after another and couldn't vote for it. They're not responsible. They're not responsible. It was the Biden and then Harris who were willing to lose the election and plausibly did because they wouldn't stand up and say a single damn word against it. And now they're trying to bring her back again.
Well, yeah. To highlight someone who's doing some good, Dr. Mohammed Mustafa is a Palestinian doctor in Gaza, and he's set up a free medical clinic. According to the UN, only 17 of Gaza's 36 hospitals remain partially functional. Medication and doctor visits are out of reach monetarily for most people in Gaza, as the closed borders have created extreme scarcity and the number of injuries and chronically sick grow, putting a nearly insurmountable strain on the healthcare infrastructure. So Dr. Mohammed, it's like a little pop-up with medication and supplies and, the ability to treat people. And there's a donation link that we can put in the caption. But
we'll put it in the description on all the postings. Yeah.
Yeah. So good for him. Yeah, I don't know. It's just everything's so sad.
Well, but that's where I'm going to go back to why I'm going to beat this drum, I think, for the rest of my life, is that we have more solutions than problems. This is not necessary. This is not the world as it needs to be. This is not because we don't have the resources, it's not because we don't have the technology, we don't have the know-how, that there's a reason why they're actively ending our ability to do scientific research and find more problems and educate people, is that the death cult that is end stage capitalism does not think people are necessary for their future. And they are willing to go that. But there's a lot more of us. And we've got the technology, the resources, the expertise, the humanity to solve all of this. And that's what it means to be alive at this moment. That's what it means to be alive. Are you that 0.00001% that got $1 trillion richer in the United States last year and is using that to destroy and murder poor people and so forth? Are you trying to get your piece of the end times fascism grift? Are you going to sit on the sidelines, or are you going to stand up and do something? Because there's a lot of us, and it doesn't even take that many of us. There have been a lot of studies that something like 3%, when 3-4% of the population actively engages in resistance, that's usually when things topple over. So it doesn't take, relatively speaking, that many of us, because there are billions of us, right? And that's what it means to be alive now, is to decide, are you trying to get in on the end times fascist grift? Are you choosing to sit on the sidelines? Or are you going to stand up and do something about it? Whatever it is. And there's so many things.
Well, we should probably get working on that grift then.
I have some pre-made meals if you would like to buy some. They have little parachutes on them.
He's up to something.
The end of colonialism was horrifying, brutal, murderous, genocidal from its inception. It never stopped. It never slowed down. Its end was never going to be simple or pretty. We just happen to be here for the end of it. And we get a say in how does that end. So it's fucking horrifying, yes. But it's also, we happen to be alive at the inflection point of history of how this whole colonial experiment will end. And it's an obligation. There's a good side to it as well, because we can find our agency, right? And our agency is in numbers, not bombs. Mostly. I'm not going to judge other people. For me, my agency is not tied up in bombs, and I can't punch, so I'm really not going to carry out violence. But I'm not going to judge how other people in other circumstances need to deal with things.
So we did it.
Welcome to our comedy podcast. Oh my god.
Isn't this shit so hilarious?
Oh
my god.
Real knee slapper, that one.
Thanks for listening to Doom Scroll Patrol. Like and subscribe on your favorite podcast and recommend it to other people because that will help us grow. If you have love letters for Harold, please send them to...
I like theremins because it sounds like you're jerking off a ghost.
True.
Sounds like.
Looks like.
If you look at the history, there's a lot of happy ghosts when the theremin's playing.